It's one small step for man.
AI Rebels, please.
Giant leap for mankind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the AI Rebels podcast. We are very excited to be here with you. I am one of your co-hosts, Jacob.
And I am your other co-host, Spencer. And today we have Derek Crager, founder of Practical AI, here with us today. Derek, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate the invite. It's a tough show to get on.
Happy to have you.
It's true, we're very selective.
That's right. Well, Derek, tell us, so Practical AI, you're deep in the AI space. How did you get here? Can you tell us a little bit about your story and what brought you here?
Well, I came out of high school, got kicked out of the house, and I was trying to go to college and went through an apprenticeship at the same time. So I actually started out, the apprenticeship had a job tied to it, so that gave me some money. So I stuck with that. So the first years of my life was in industry, so industrial construction. I would install vats at Eli Lilly that churns the insulin. I would install car presses at Ford and GM and Subaru. So I worked on the floor with my hands doing these things for a few years. I came what they call inside, and I worked W-2 employee in automotive manufacturing for about 15 years. During that time, I went from the floor to engineering to process engineering. I moved on into learning side. So I had about a 10-year gap in there where I built a real estate company, largest of its kind in the state of Indiana, where I'm from. Left that and got back into automotive and food manufacturing for about 3 years. And I ended up about a half decade at Amazon. And that's really what brought me here. If we look back, I got into this internet thing before you guys were born. It actually started. Hey, were you born before '89, either one of you? Okay, so
No.
Internet started in '89, and I got on, and I was selling product in 1990 to '93. I was told that I was one of the first 100 online businesses out there, but I was dense, I was ignorant, I knew nothing. I sold product on 5 continents, and when my manufacturer, my distributor said, "Hey, we don't want you selling because we discovered this internet thing in '93," I just said, "Buy my inventory and I'm out." I figured I'd saturated the market. Swear to God. So, yeah, right. So I just wanted to throw back in there for history, because I'm always looking back and thinking, wow, in 1999, I could have lost everything I made, but I didn't make anything. So I continue on until today. But I spent time at Amazon on the learning side, and I was fortunate enough to work with some people, and I have credit for building Amazon's highest rated training program ever. That's globally. And so I took that, and I left Amazon January of 2024, and I started dabbling with this AI thing, because really we're in our second year of the consumer side where, there's headlines about AI. And I'm looking at this, and AI, it's the same wave we had when the internet came about. So it feels to me like it's 1992 all over again. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to grab my surfboard. I'm going to ride this one out. I'm not as stupid as I was before. I still have a ways to go. So I'm looking at this AI wave. It matches the internet wave. And the internet, it really, really didn't pick up steam until 2006. When we all got these mobile phones, and anybody could get on and have fun. So we have about 15 years ahead of us before AI is really accepted across. It takes about a generation. So last fall, I figured out that the success that I had at Amazon on the training side, I'm a trainer at heart. I'm a learner at heart. It took me about 100 people that I worked with and just thousands and thousands of people hours to make this learning program during 2021 and then on and beyond. So last year I discovered I could use AI to do all the legwork, the heavy lifting, to organize the knowledge and deliver it. So I just saved, using AI, I saved thousands and thousands of people hours, and I can do the same thing and deliver it to the right person at the right time when it's needed. And that's just the most exciting thing in the world to me, is to give people knowledge. I mean, truly empower people to have answers to their questions that they might otherwise, wander around on Earth and imagine.
I love this vision because it's very focused on like the current capabilities of AI and what they provide already. I also love the companies that are clearly like, building products with a future in mind where these models are 2 times more powerful than they are now. But I'm always most fascinated by what people are doing with AI now that already directly applies, because I think that there's a lack of that represented popularly, And so, anyways, love to hear that is the purpose and vision behind Practical AI. I noticed that you mentioned stuff about neurodivergence and ADHD, and that was of particular interest to me because I am ADHD myself. And I'd be interested to hear if your experience parallels mine, where you found that AI provides a really good hack around those days where you just like your executive dysfunction is just not your executive function is just not there. You can't get up and do stuff.
Oh, 100%. I'm leaning in on that one. And my favorite tool is ChatGPT Project, which you get the project with the $20 a month. And it's the best because it remembers things for me. And if I want to build something and it's like, okay, I got to deal with all the details. And then ADHD has me distracted and I'm going somewhere else. Well, I never finished that one out. So, with project, I can say, remember that thing I started yesterday? Well, let's finish that out, but let's make it blue, or let's make it talk like an elf. I don't know. So it's a way to keep my memory intact through online. I really think we're at the point where you pick your sci-fi genre, and the assistant is there to assist you, and it's with us all the time. And the tools, they help me out. And the AI for Autistics.com community that you had mentioned on the intro, that's actually a nonprofit. And we just sit around talking about how to leverage AI to get us past ourselves.
Interesting. Yeah. What would have been some of the applications of that philosophy? How are you using it?
Which philosophy?
Just like trying to help you get past yourselves, you said. Like, what are ways you're doing that?
Oh, see, I was distracted already. Well, ChatGPT Project really helps me. I've used it to map out my entire business. And I say, hey, do this, do that, do something else. I leverage it to build out our web content. I use, what am I using right now? I'm using Windsurf to build out our React, TypeScript, full steam ahead, can do anything website. Hopefully it can do anything. My first iteration, I forgot to add mobile viewing ability to it. So I just finishing up, wrapping up, and rebuilding the entire thing from scratch.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, the philosophy of having that tool there, it's really there. It's reassuring.
Yeah.
I feel like I could do so much more.
Totally.
I'd be interested to hear. Are there other stories in your community that you have found particularly noteworthy in terms of AI for autistics or any of these other projects that you're involved in?
Well, we talk a lot about just leveraging the tools like we just did here. I speak for a nonprofit. I'm actually an alumnus of it, called Perscalis, which is an educational based program. And so they have me come back and every month and I speak there, and we talk about using AI, pick your flavor. It doesn't really matter. Revamping your resume, if you want a job, and using it to create cover letters that match the job to your resume, and then having your resume be rebuilt using the job description. And I always emphasize, you don't want to create anything new. but you can use AI to use the word choices. I mean, open up a thesaurus.
Right.
There's 60,000 words in there, and the common human, if we have grasp of 3 to 5,000, that's a lot. So just use the same wording that they're using there, and that helps out. So that's another tool right there. And then we also use AI to practice role play. And I guess I'm still focused on that job search. But there's obviously there's many more directions.
No, I love that, and I love this emphasis on the passing of knowledge. I think there's such a trend, especially in tech, where people get their secret sauce and they don't want to share it. They want to. It's the open source versus closed, right? It's this debate. What's better? And the more I see of AI and what's possible, I think the only way we're going to get where we need to go is a more open sourced approach. I think both for models, but also I think what you're talking about, these best practices, these secret sauces we all develop, as we share those out and help others implement those, I think that's where we're going to see AI start to be accepted. Like you said, it might take 15 years, but hopefully we can speed things up with the help of AI.
You mentioned about not sharing or sharing, and some 1960s lingo, and I wasn't around in the 60s, but the 60s lingo about the man this, the man that, and as you were describing this, my thought is, as soon as somebody hides their code, right, protecting themselves, they don't want it to get out because they're afraid they're going to lose $1 or a dime. I'm thinking, as soon as you make that decision not to share, you're the man, dude.
You gotta stick it to the man. I love that. Well, I'm curious, as we're still on this topic of like neurodivergence, what benefits does that bring as you're working with AI? Have you seen whatever flavor of neurodivergence it is? Have you seen any unique benefits when working with AI versus maybe someone who's not neurodivergent?
Yeah, 100%. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Nancy Doyle in the UK. She has a website that she developed. It's called Genius Within, so geniuswithin.org. And there's a page on there that's what is neurodiversity. And in that, she talks about the concept of neurodiversity. It doesn't explain who I am, you are, anybody is specifically. It's just a bucket that we all fall into. And people that are neurodiverse, they can be autistic, ADHD, ADD, and just because we have the same label doesn't mean we react in the same way. So she has this thing she calls the spiky profile. And the spiky profile, and if you can just imagine like an XY coordinate and the graph, it starts at one point, and it's like a control graph. It goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down. So those of us that are neurodivergent, if we just talk about really any 10 personality or analytical traits or skill sets at all, you can put anything and everything on that x-axis. The so-called normal people, and there really is no normal person, but it's the average of all society is what we call normal. And there's very few people that's the average of all society. So she talks about the spiky profile, where if the average of all society is just barely up and down, those of us that, let's just say, extreme neurodivergent, we might be way down at the bottom on social acceptance or recognizing social cues, but then we're way up here at 200 and 300% on how well we focus. And sometimes how well we focus gets us in trouble on the social cues again, especially at work, because let's say, for example, you have somebody that just knocked it out of the park, and they just have this huge project success. And then so their manager comes up to them and says, "That is fantastic. I want you to present that to the board." And now they go to the board and they just freeze. And it's like, eh. And all of a sudden, everybody thinks they're stupid and silly, but nobody ever asks them, "Are you okay in front of people?" So there are people that are good in front of people and not analytical. There are those that are analytical and not in front of people. So it's really important to know that and have that awareness. So you asked, to get back to your question, and thank God I remembered. But you asked about the value of that. So autistics, for example, a lot of us see patterns, we pattern recognition, and it makes us feel at ease, right? When we see patterns. So if we don't see a pattern, we can create a pattern. And when we create a pattern, what we're doing, we're creating consistency in whatever we're building. And in technology, consistency is key, because now you can have something that's repetitive. And if something's repetitive, you can put A in, you're going to get X out. And depending on what it does, you might be able to monetize that into a Facebook or a Microsoft or a Yahoo account.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I've found that I think in some ways being ADHD has made me more primed to accept and embrace LLMs, because the idea of just connecting to seemingly unrelated ideas through, a connection that may or may not be spurious is very, very familiar to me, right? You just jump around everywhere. So I'd be curious to hear, the heavy focus is on providing skills, or teaching people how to leverage these tools in pursuit of bettering themselves. Are there any applications that you're developing on top of this philosophy, or is it mostly focused on kind of the social community aspect at this point?
Well, it's the community side. I say it's my personal life, and the business side is, we're chasing the nickel. So on the community side, however you define it, I teach people using tools like Windsurf and Bolt and Lovable and things like that, how they can build games and applications and websites with no programming knowledge in their background. And for those of us that are all over the place and we can't hold a job, we really thrive when somebody gives us a task to do. So if we just boil it down to the basics and just say, look at all the businesses that are out there in your community, wherever you live, that don't have a decent web page. You don't even have to know how to program. You don't even need to know WordPress. You can go into one of these, I guess, vibe coding. I didn't really buy into the vibe coding lingo, but it was there for a second. But this coding without coding knowledge, and just speak it into existence. Now it feels biblical, right? We're speaking things into existence that didn't exist before. Yeah. So they can actually go around and through, in about 5 minutes, create a brand new website entirely for their local insurance agent, the real estate agent, whoever's in town, and they can begin selling these and making money, putting money in their own pocket. And for the individual that has an esteem problem, which is most of us, once we get that acknowledgement, and money's a great acknowledger right there, right? Money and those pats on the back.
Very validating.
I get validated every time I use a credit card at the store. Have you ever watched the transaction? It says it's valid. So anyway, that's a sidebar.
I'm killing it. I'm crushing it.
But anyway, it's given the power to these individuals, regardless of age. We don't even discuss age. And now they're creating things, they're building things where they might have had creativity before, but they had no follow through or no tools. So that's the biggest thing right there. And that's on the personal side. On the professional side, we believe in the same thing. If we have a product that is, we ask ourselves a question, is it going to help somebody? Is it going to make somebody's day better at work or at home? If it will, then we build it. If it won't, then, we're on to something else, because I'm 58 last week. So, I'm not here to create something new. I'm here to do something better for the next generation. They say if you look long term, you plant trees. So right now I'm planting trees.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. I think that mentality is what's missing in so many realms of AI. There's so much hype. There's so much excitement of, let's just try something new. Let's just do this for the sake of doing it. And that vision, I think, is crucial and powerful. So in that vein, I know there's an emphasis on voice, using voice with AI. I think I've seen some of that being involved with what you're working on. What is the motivation there of a voice interface rather than, the traditional chat interface or dashboard or whatever it is?
Well, I want to slip this in that our AI technology is 50,000 years old. Our AI technology is older than anybody else's. What are you talking about? Well, you just mentioned it, voice. So we use voice, and I think this might be more appropriate use of the term singularity, but voice, I think, is the singularity point for AI, not because they're going to take over the world or the universe. I mean, let's think big. Just the world. We got the whole Milky Way to extend out there.
Yeah,
AI could take over. But there's a singularity point, and there's in web speak, we talk about 2 clicks, 1 click, 0 click, scale. If we look at, one of the top 5 largest companies, well, it's Alphabet, but Google, right? The Google homepage, what is it? It's simplicity. It's just a bar with a click. And then from my time at Amazon, I learned about the backstory of Jeff Bezos. Now, in 1995, when Jeff Bezos started selling books online out of his garage, he actually had hair back then. And I've got to know.
Those were the days.
I've got a whole other story where I was promoted just because I shaved my head, but that's a sidebar. So I can neither confirm nor deny the validation of that story.
Right.
But when Jeff Bezos was started, he was just selling books. It was just an also-ran company. It was no better than anybody else. There was a lot of better companies out there selling online up until he created his own singularity point. And that's when he went to his dev team and he said, one. And they said, what? He said, 1 click. We want 1 click purchase at Amazon.com or we're going nowhere. And the developer said, well, we got 11 clicks. You're pulling our leg. No, 1 click. So they left, they came back, and he goes, 1 click? He goes, no, we got it 8 clicks, but that's the best we're ever going to get it. And it went back and forth this way up until the point, even when it got down to 2 clicks. 2 clicks, that means there's twice as many clicks in the universe than is needed to purchase. So if we take infinite clicks and cut it in half, I'm told that's a smaller number, but half of infinity, that still seems like infinity to me. It's just slower to get there. But that's a whole mathematician sidebar. But 1 click allowed Amazon to leapfrog the competition. And back then, Amazon wasn't even considered competition because they were just selling books. But it allowed them to leverage our time. Because isn't our time the most valuable thing in the universe? And there's all these done-for-you programs and projects, and I could build it at home, and I love to watch the DIY network, but I'll never actually do it myself. I'll go down and buy, fill in the blank, because it's time. So that singularity point with Amazon, where it got to 1 click, it made it so useful that people are buying there, and now, the last time I checked, Amazon owns 57% of all retail sales in North America. That's big.
Oh, gosh.
That is big. So you ask why we got into voice. Voice is that singularity point. It's literally, my earliest recollection is the 1969 movie 2001 Space Odyssey. I'm going to throw a lot of keywords in your podcast today.
I love it.
But when Hal was the virtual assistant, we didn't even call them virtual assistants back then, but Hal was the entity that spoke on the ship. And that was in 1969, the conception. And I'm sure there's sci-fi that had, artificial intelligence as an assistant before that. But how good is artificial intelligence today? I mean, you ask, can we chat? Yeah, we can chat, but how long does it take? If we were having, oh my God, think about that. Next week, I think you ought to do your podcast in Braille.
Oh, man.
But imagine the attention span of your listeners if it just had our faces up here and then clicking. And they had to wait for it. Once upon, or a lazy fox jumped over the, whatever it is. When we think about typing, we really don't think that it takes that long. But it's an infinite amount if we don't have the patience to be there. So we remove all that barrier with voice AI. If we can just speak up and say, Alexa, turn on Batman, and it happens, rather than where did I place that gosh darn remote? And then by the time you find it, and then you find out you're internet's out, and shoot, then you're working with the network box, and you find out it's the coax on the back of the modem, and now it's like, screw Batman. I've got other things to do. So it's that power. It's like speaking to a genie.
Yeah.
It's just speak it into existence, and it's there. And I'll put a plug in for our AI. I said it's 50,000 years in the making, but our AI, we don't use an app. We don't need internet. Our voice AI, you don't need a laptop. You don't need to get on the network. Our AI is so simplified that you can go over to great grandma's house, get on her phone, assuming it's still working, dial a number. You can talk to our AI over a phone made in 1928.
Interesting.
So it's that simplicity, the simplicity of a Google and that singularity point of a one-click purchase. It's all here. It's like talking to the genie,
Wow.
and the genie talks back.
So it's cellular based, it's phone based. So I guess first, just like high level business questions, how does that work business wise, monetization? Does someone have to pay a subscription to be able to access it, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm learning all kinds of new words through my IP attorney. Licensing fee, and then which gets you the opportunity, and then buckets of minutes.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Is there currently I'll call it persona? Is there one AI persona currently, and is the plan to have multiple, or is this in fact a genie who can do everything?
Well, let me step back for a minute. Have you heard predictions that in the next X number of years we're going to have like 360 billion AIs? You ever thought about what they mean by that? What's your thought on what they mean by that?
Yeah.
To me, it's just serverless instances being spun up.
Yeah. So you've got a popcorn machine behind you, right? So
I do indeed. Yeah.
Okay, so imagine somebody comes up there and they don't know how to operate a popcorn machine. God forbid if somebody's watching Idiocracy and that really comes to play. So what they're talking about when they say AI, they're talking about putting a individual AI in every device around us. That way we can walk up to our air conditioner, which we already can, right, with the cool temperature gauges, and talk to it and said, hey, make it 2 degrees colder, etc. But even to the point of talking to our blenders and a little AI that's dedicated. And that's where we're at. It's we get away from the possibility of hallucination if we take the knowledge base that the LLM is working through. And LLM, what Hugging Face has 1 million or 1.5 million of them now. So it's not just the big people out there that have this. You can run this at home right now on a Pi. You can run it at home on a Pi. But imagine if we just walk around and we touch something and it says, hi, Derek, how are you? Would you like a chocolate shake today or a strawberry shake? And it's that interactivity. And if I could walk up to a machine that I've never seen before in my life, and it could be a kitchen machine or it could be industrial manufacturing a machine, and I can just touch it and it comes to life, and it takes me by the virtual hand and walks me through the startup, the safety process, what lights to look at, what to feed in the front end, and what I should expect to see come out the back end. And the machine teaches me on the job. No training department. There's something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve that says a guy named Ebbinghaus, more keywords, 1880, 1885. Ebbinghaus talks about the forgetting curve is once we learn something and we close that book, assuming that's the way we learned, whatever medium it is, within 20 minutes, we've forgotten 50% of what we just learned. Yeah. Within an hour, we've forgotten 75%. And within a day, I think they said like 90% we forget. When we come to do something, and if it's job related, it's like, how do I do this again? We're looking for reassurance. We might have 3 of the 5 steps in our mind, but we don't know which order they go in. And so we ask, hey, can you talk me through this? This is my first time. So those are the scenarios where our voice AI actually comes to the rescue and says, hey, I see this is your first time, and start here, go here. Do you have any other questions? And the neat thing about it, and this is where we've devised ours, is that the power isn't in telling somebody how to do step one and then to go to step two and go to step three. I mean, because you can find that in a workbook. You can find that in a placard on the side of a machine. You can find that on YouTube video. Now, YouTube video is great because it's like picture. It feels like we're there with a person, right? Because we see the person and they're changing their brakes or putting a belt on a washing machine. So imagine that scenario where it feels like there's somebody in the room with you, supporting you, but only about 10% of tasks go as planned, right? The other 90% goes sideways. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have the term, did it go sideways on you, or pear-shaped, right? I mean, all these, I mean, that's a whole marketing channel for me right there, just coming up with these, fad words on explaining when things don't go right. So in those situations, our AI comes in there and runs a root cause analysis and says, okay, let's figure out what's going on. So it does more than just regurgitate steps. It understands the steps, and it comes to you as a subject matter expert, just like you would when you call a teacher, when you call your cousin, when you call your mom or dad. Hey, grandma, what was that chocolate chip recipe cookie again, and it's somebody there to give you the confidence and make sure you have the knowledge to get it right the first time. So when I told you, imagine yourself in front of a machine and it teaches you, we're doing that today. And I love it.
That's fascinating. I really like this because something that I played around with a lot and am still playing around with is this idea of a new type of website, where it's entirely LLM generated UI. And this is obviously not an original idea. A lot of other people have had this idea. But something that has occurred to me is that these UIs are probably not appropriate for a lot of apps where, it's a predefined action flow that's not a very particularly deep app. I don't need like an LLM UI generated UI for a light switch app on my phone, right? But getting to the point, these interfaces would be and will be extremely useful for really information dense environments that have like a really steep initial learning curve, right? So I really like the vision that you're pitching of essentially objects with their own ontology and ability, to not only provide you with the placard steps on the side, but it's also it's got some internal knowledge of edge cases that it might run into. It's got some internal knowledge of, how to clean it. It's got some internal knowledge of whatever, right? It's an interesting idea. So right now, is the product only just the bot that you can call, or are you guys working on building out versions of this that can be, deployed to refrigerators already? I mean, obviously, there's a lot more that goes into that business-wise, but just hyperbolically and hypothetically speaking.
Yeah. Well, I spent a long time talking. I never answered that question the first time you asked me, did I? So, absolutely. On our website, if you or anybody that's listening wants to visit, I have 18 industries identified, and we're filling a knowledge gap. So you ask, do we have this AI is once it gets out, if it leaves, am I out of business type of thing? But we have the infrastructure set up. It's multi-layered to get past the hallucination issue. And you nailed it spot on when you said, down to a specific ontology here, because when we narrow it down that tight, you don't have the mistakes that you get out in the wild. And it allows to keep the humans. And honestly, we're not an AI company. We're a learning company that leverages AI. And the biggest part of what we do is psychological, because somebody is talking on the phone. I keep doing this. Does anybody even know what this is? That's like the old off the wall.
We're with you.
We've got our earbuds in, right? This is how we do it now.
We're not quite that young,
Yeah.
We're
Hey,
just
Google.
old enough.
Hey, Google, call AI revolution. No, not now. I was kidding. All right. So we what we developed is the infrastructure to lay this out. And we have a personal mentoring version, and then we have a high tech level one. So it's Pocket Mentor and Pocket SME, subject matter expert. So you ask how many of these we have. Well, you just go to AWS and you hit replicate compute, and that's exactly where we're at right now. And what we do is we fill those buckets when we contract with a company or nonprofit. Hey, any nonprofits out there, come seek me out, because I give this tech to you for free, because I'm not going to live that much longer, compared to you guys. But actually, I just think it's a good thing to do, right? You see my shirt, Be Kind here. So it's basically cookie cutter. So it's cookie cutter on the front end or the infrastructure. The differentiator here is that knowledge that we're teaching. So if it's in an industrial environment and we have machine A on operation line 1, well, machine A might be a little bit different or a lot different than machine B. So we'll have 2 different AIs, 2 different phone numbers. It's the same interaction. I just tap and call, or we actually leverage QR codes with the Tel Connect. A lot of people aren't aware that you can scan a QR code and it just populates your phone with a phone number, so you can call right away. So that way people can disregard even remembering these numbers. So if it's an onboarding program for a company, that QR code is at the front of their onboarding manual, whether it's physical or virtual. We have this set up for schools, K through 12. If you can imagine yourself, us with ADHD, we didn't get any help at school, because while the teacher is talking down the middle of the lane and 90% of the room is going, yes, Mrs. Kellogg, we're back there going, well, can we use it to take over the world? Can I walk my dog with it? Won't we drown? I mean, all these tangential thoughts, and people called us crazy. And we were just literally thinking outside the box, because our line, we're at the edge of the, Six Sigma here. We were asking these questions because we truly wanted to know. So in the K through 12 environment, we have let's say a teacher teaching out of a workbook, a math book, English book, science, you fill in the blank. Each book, if you can imagine, with its own QR code. So when the learner, whatever their age, 0 to 105, if you're 106, we don't work for you, but 0 to 105, you scan that QR code and you can be sitting there looking at your book, because this is the neat thing about voice AI, to refer back earlier. If I have to look something up and my hands are busy looking something up, I can't actually be doing it. We do it this way, don't we? We have one finger on the page and we got the other hand over here, and we need 2 more just to help us. And who's holding the flashlight? So in the K through 12 environment, little Ricky or little Jamie Lee comes home and she thought she knew it all, but she has a question. So either she goes to school the next day without her homework complete, or she's not ready for the test, or there's just one item that they just didn't get. Their whole day is shot. Their learning has stopped. However, you give them a chance to absorb the concept that Mrs. Kellogg gave in math class. And then once they get home, they can run every tangent, every rabbit hole, every euphemism you can think of, the scenario, and they can explore it till their heart's content until they understand it. The world was built when we did this whole industrial revolution thing, one size fits all, meaning if you can work the machine, you can do it. But if you're too tall or too short, you can't work the machine, so you're out of a job. And one size fits all is a way that HR companies do, or HR companies, but HR at companies do. They say you have to fit the mold to work here. We make jokes, right? Going to Disney World or Kings Island or fill in the blank, and you got to be this tall to ride the ride. And we use that in jokes all the time. But the world has made that a thing. One size fits all, but if you don't fit. So where we're at today, we're at the one size fits one. And that's where voice AI, our voice AI, I can say definitively, talks to you as an individual. And if you have a slight different pacing, slight different vocabulary, but you still understand the concept, my AI will match you and regulate that conversation as
I
your
love that.
pace.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. So I think I only
Okay.
listed 3, but it's like we invented a paperclip. What's the value of a paperclip? If it's sitting in a
Yeah. No, I was
box at
gonna say
Office
this is.
Depot, it's 2 cents. But if it's holding papers together that has the launch codes for our Mars launcher, it's worth $1 billion.
I really like the confluence of technologies used here. You got
Yeah.
early 1900s with the telephone. You got 2010s with QR codes, and now 2020s with the AI voice.
I know.
It's just
I feel like this is the bridge with everything.
No, I was going to say I was slightly confused at what you were pitching at first, but once you got into explaining that's a really cool vision of you can start shipping these to machines right away just by slapping a QR code on that. Like that's really simple and really smart. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I love the idea too of
this is the stuff
how
that gets me
personalized
geeked.
I know, and just how accessible the accessibility is. Just, I love it. This is what there's so much of an elitist attitude, I think, oftentimes with tech in general. Like, oh, I'm in tech. I understand coding. I'm in tech.
Oh, I'm in AI. What do? I'm doing AI. I'm doing AI.
I'm in AI. Yeah. And this just breaks all the barriers and is like, pick up your phone and call. And the transfer of knowledge potential here is pretty incredible, I think.
You might see a commercial sometime down the line that says even grandma can do it.
Okay. I like it.
Beautiful.
Hey, I love grandmas. That's not a slight. That's a positive. We're growing.
Yeah.
It's available to everybody.
So how is this, like, what's the process for you on the back end of this? Let's use the school example, just because I can see that proliferating into so many unique instances. Each grade has how many subjects, how many books. If each one has its own, are you going to have your own catalog of books for 3rd grade math that they can choose from? Or are you going to schools and they say, hey, here's what we use, and you're internalizing that and creating unique instances of your AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it doesn't cover just schools. It includes all opportunities to bridge this knowledge gap. I just, the Akashic records, that word flew in my mind right now. The Akashic records, that imaginative knowledge base that if you're spiritual, you can tie into and you just know everything instantly. That's where we're at with this. So yeah, if the decision on what that knowledge is up to the organization we're working with. We do not create information. I mean, nothing beyond our framework. Our framework is here to serve. My IP attorney kept asking me, is it software? Is it SaaS? Is it PaaS? And she's just trying to understand it. And it's just so simple. It's like the first time a paperclip was invented, we go, what do I do with this? I don't need it. I can hold them papers together by my thumb and finger. But the knowledge is based upon whatever that person desires. So if it's a math teacher, it's going to be that math. If it's a automotive manufacturer, it's going to be about that specific press or that generator. So we do not create the knowledge because, one, we don't know their subject. So we take their subject, and there's something called, at least in manufacturing, there's something called tribal knowledge. And I don't know a replacement word for it today because people don't use tribal. Well, tribal's an English word anyway, and now I'm going down a different rabbit hole. But knowledge that is not documented. Well, don't say undocumented. Well, my gosh, let's just throw out all kinds of SEO on your podcast today. You're gonna have viewers after this coming from all sides of the globe. I know they were talking about, I don't know, canned spam, but I digress again. If I had hair, I'd stay on track. See, you stay on track. I used to have hair that long and longer, but that's when I still worked with my hands. And anyway, I had time. Anyway, sidebar. The knowledge is based upon the target, the goal that we want to teach. So they decide what that is. And what we do, we give them an opportunity to record all of these tribal knowledge, all this undocumented knowledge that in a job situation, if you have 10 people that you work with, we all know who's the doer. Sometimes we call them a kiss something or another, but they get everything done because they've been doing it forever. And then you have the people that are come in new that they're too shy to even ask because they were told there are stupid questions. So somewhere between the most knowledgeable and the least knowledgeable is a way to document that knowledge and deliver it instantly through voice AI. And for those individuals that do know it all, that they're the ones that you come to for the answer, those people are the doers, and the doers, they're ADHD because they don't have the patience to sit down and get this. Type out an SOP, type out how you fix that compressor, type out how you got that printer online. They can't do that because their brain doesn't allow them to. They have to be in the moment, on the job. So we just give them the phone and we put it in interview mode. And I'm doing this again. Sorry, jazz hands. Okay, so I had my Mountain Dew today. We allow the most knowledgeable person to just talk through what they're doing. I mean, it just talk me through it. And we record, and we've had transcription services, for decades now, even at the consumer level, but it transcribes and it takes that and it organizes this new, previously unwritten solution to, it's 42 to everything, that it's now documented for all 10 people on that team to use. And another psychological side of this, and I told you, our technology is 50,000 years old. AI is maybe 40% of it. 60% of it is psychology and how the UX or the UI, I don't even know what U to put in here anymore for this since it's voice. UV, I got my UVs on. But it's a chance for individual to ask those stupid questions, even if they think they're stupid. Yeah. And AI is not going to judge them. We program it to be patient, to be kind. We program it to be jovial. We ask, our AI is configured to ask, hey, how's your day going? Right? Just to make sure and that they're on track. And we are empowering that person to the point where they can accomplish any task, even if it's on day one, that, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt has been there for 30 years in whatever career path. If Jacob can do it, then our new person can do it because they have this magic interface of voice. It's like talking to God if you're biblical or religious. If you're just Buddha, I guess you're talking to spirit. There's all these metaphors that are out there, but that's what we're doing. We have created that bridge. Pocket Mentor is the bridge between the human and the Akashic records, which is all the information in the world. But from a practical standpoint, practical AI, we put guardrails on there and we put all that knowledge in a little box so the AI is accurate and it's not grabbing this made up stuff because it read it on Reddit.
Right. I like this a lot because Jake will tell you, I talk about this a lot, that one of the things that I'm most excited for with AI is the potential to record all of this previously unrecorded knowledge that exists within, the membrane of an organization, even, and not necessarily even lives with one individual. Sometimes there's, processes where one person knows one piece, another person knows another piece, and there's another person who knows that you got to put those pieces together, right? And so I think that the potential of AI in this area is a little bit underrated by people. I mean, look at what the printing press did for alchemy, right? This is another subject I harp on a lot, right? Without the printing press, alchemy never evolves into chemistry and never becomes a true science. There is untold potential in simply writing knowledge down and maintaining that knowledge. Because over time, 10 years from now, Spencer Jr. is going to look at something I did and be like, Dad, you idiot. Like, you could have done it this way. And innovation happens, right? But the record needs to come before true innovation can happen, because otherwise you're just kind of running in circles all day, making sure to maintain the current state of things.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If it's documented, it exists and you can iterate. I think it was Jack Welch at GE says you can't measure anything you don't track. So I've got to throw back the other direction into the past. There's something called Da Vinci's Notebook, and I'm not talking about the band. I'm talking about Da Vinci. He literally, when he was doing whatever he's doing, he had a notebook, multiple notebooks, and he had a random thought, that wild thought. I'm sure he was ADHD. He would write it down and store it away, and he had a categories set up, so it might be years later, and he said, oh, kites or planes, where was I? Oh, here I am. I'm already 3 steps into 10 of building my own flying machine. And it was all there. And AI, just like you shared a moment ago, AI taps us into that information. And we started the show, right, talking about how we can just have AI tell us what we were doing yesterday, because I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
So as we're kind of wrapping up here, I'd be curious with this push for voice and accessibility and this transfer of knowledge, what advice would you give people that aren't familiar with AI? Like how do people get up to speed? How do people build trust in AI? I'm curious your thoughts on this for those not like us who are so fascinated and involved in it every single day.
Yeah, we're so much better than the rest of us.
People got to get up with us. Come on.
That's going to be the title of this episode. AI Rebels, better than the rest of you.
There you go. Prove me wrong. Hello, ChatGPT. Can you tell me how I'm better than AI Rebels? I want everybody to do that and comment on your post. All right.
Do it.
So,
yes.
advice. So, we are 2 years into this AI technology wave. And the AI technology wave, it mirrors the internet technology wave. And the reason that the internet blew up and became such a tool, it wasn't porn, no matter what you read on Reddit, but it was the passing of information. And it's that information, you mapped it out. This person in Europe has part A, this person in Africa has part B, this person in Canada has part C. And if they never see each other, that's as far as it goes. But what if they combined all those parts and now they have a solution? So it was the ability to communicate. And what really excelled, I mean, I'm old enough to know pre-internet when it took 5 days for an email message to get from the East Coast to the West Coast because it made server drops that way. And then once the internet came around and we had TCP IP, I mean, we could literally do it in seconds. It was seconds originally, but we're shortening that iteration curve. So I can say Apple, you can say Jack, and we can just go back and forth. But if we had to do that, let's extrapolate backwards, back to the point of, writing letters, and it was traveled across the world on steamship and horse. It was literally months and months sometimes before that communication got through. So if you're asking for a recipe for chocolate chips, by the time you get that recipe from grandma, maybe you're too old for chocolate chips and you lost your teeth by then. But what I would say is that it's 1992 all over again. That internet wave showed us that it's going to happen whether we want it to or not. So be at peace with it. Avoid looking for an AI answer if a simpler answer exists.
That's
There's
really
a razor or something I heard that's but be patient. Don't try to build a solution for a problem you don't have. And just know we're 2 years into it, and everything can change in the next year, the next 2 years. And by the time we get 17 years into it, like when was the crescendo when people started having browsers on their mobile phones. I mean, that was huge. It was availability. When we get there, you're already going to have enough time to understand everything that you need to know, and it's going to carry you along. Don't worry about AI replacing a job. There's been so many times throughout history, whether it be the Industrial Revolution or the 90s when the telephone companies went from one operator literally I'm using literally too much. Now I sound like a hippie chick. I don't know. But there used to be operators they had to make every call, right, with physical wiring. And when they automated that, there was a big pushback saying, oh my gosh, we're going to lose our jobs and we're going to go hungry.
Right.
Well, it turned out because those jobs were automated through computers, those people that worked those jobs got promoted. They had better jobs on average, and it created more jobs. And the same thing is happening right now. It's going to create more and more jobs, and they're going to be self-defining, and it's going to be organic. So don't look at AI as, I got to do AI. Please never say I'm doing AI. Please never say, what do you do? I work in AI. Oh, well, I work in O2. But I'll leave everybody with this example. Back in the true gold rush in Northern America, when people were traveling out to California, 99% of the people made no money. The people that made the money were the ones selling the pickaxes and shovels. So think about that. Be there to support it. You don't have to buy into it, and be patient.
Love that.
Yeah, really good advice.
Wise words, Derek. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. This was
our
awesome.
Followers, this was fascinating. If our followers want to follow you, want to follow Practical AI, Pocket Mentor, everything you're working on, what are the best channels to do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just reach out. If you got a question, I'll answer. I'm available. Our business website is practicalai.app. So Practical AI, just like it sounds, an APP like Apple, Paul. And it's kind of interesting or ironic that our website is an app, but our AI technology isn't. And then the third and final one is for the neurodiverse among us, and that is AIForAutistics.com, and that's FOR, AIForAutistics.com. So thank you.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
We'll stay in contact, Derek. Thank you.